Hi, I'm David Zyla, and welcome to another episode of Feel Good Beauty. I'm very happy to have you with us today, and we have some extraordinary guests joining us as well. So let me just tell you a little bit about Feel Good Beauty. I have spent my career helping women feel like the best versions of themselves. And when it comes to feeling beautiful, I've discovered that it's not about chasing trends, transforming yourself into an ideal, or even shifting an inch out of your comfort zone. It's all about identifying and magnifying the unique, individual, and beautiful woman that you are. So with all that's going on in the world right now, it seemed the opportune time to host a refresher. And so today I'm going to share some of my absolutely favorite tips on creating a wardrobe that you love. We have self-care through photo organizing with the Upbeat Organized Office author, Darla DeMorrow. We have connecting with those whose style of communication is different from your own with Thomas Farley, AKA Mr. Manners, and learning how to never overeat again with integrative dietitian and author of Eat, Drink, and Be Gorgeous, Esther Blum. So let's get started, shall we? So I wanted to put together a presentation for you on shopping for a wardrobe that you love. So a lot of the clients I've worked with over the years will say to me, David, I know exactly, I've learned from you the right colors and cuts and so on to wear. But when I go, when I open my laptop or I go into a brick and mortar store, I kind of forget everything that you've ever said, and I get caught up in what I call the theater of retail, which retail is fantastic theater. But at the end of the day, clothing needs to illuminate you. You are, I've said this on one of my other videos. I've explained it as you're the subject of a great portrait painting. And so the colors and the textures and the patterns and the neckline and all of the accessories, these are what I would refer to as raw materials to showcase you. You're the most important focus, not the dress, no matter which designer designed it. It really is about making you the center of it. So today, I'm going to share many of my absolute favorite shopping tips. And then I'm going to even help you with putting together some looks after you've gone shopping and show you what a really nice look is, but then also show you the wow. And I'm going to help you get to the wow with some really good brand new tips that I have not shared anywhere else. So let me just start by saying that today's segment is devoted to the women who have closets of clothes, shop each and every season, and yet never feel they have anything to wear. And I translate that as that they don't have anything that they love to wear. So we're going to try to make all of that better. So if we could go to the first slide. So whether you're shopping virtually or in person, your absolute best shopping starts in where? Your closet, believe it or not. So if we could go to the next slide. In your closet, there are clues. So what are the clues? If you look at this slide and on your left side, you'll see a series of pencil skirts. And on the right side, you will see a wrap skirt. You'll see a wrap maxi skirt, and you'll see an A-line mini skirt. So let's say your closet is like the one on the left, and everything there is a pencil skirt that you've worn. And the other three skirts are there with price tags on them. You're not going to wear a wrap maxi skirt or an A-line mini skirt. You probably got caught up in a moment. You saw that, this was the skirt that, was featured on the runways or worn by a celebrity. And maybe, it was an impulse purchase, but the tag is on it. And let's say you've had it for 6 months or a year. this is a clue that you're not going to wear that style. So when you are in a store or open your laptop, you shouldn't even look at maxi skirts. You should, if you're shopping online, you should actually set your filter for, pencil skirt only. Why waste your time? You're not going to wear the other ones. And so this formula can be used for absolutely everything in your closet, from cut to color to even neckline. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. I also would say, if we could go to the next slide, you're going to try everything on in your closet before you do any shopping. In one of my other videos, I talk about cleaning out your closet. That's really good information to plug in here as well. And but you're going to try everything on, and you're going to put together, based on what you try on, a list of what you're actually shopping for. I never think of shopping as recreational. I think of it as like a job to get things to illuminate you. Like it's like how would I say, a fabulous treasure hunt, if you will, to, find the best things for your closet at your budget, in your size, in your colors, etc. And so I encourage you to try everything on. This is also a great time to say, who am I right now? If 6 months ago you were working in a law firm and now you have a, I don't know, a lawn care company, your wardrobe is probably a bit different. And so this will also help you figure out what it is that you're shopping for. I like people to think about themselves as the character in a movie. Who is the character? The how would I say, the teacher shouldn't be dressed like, the I don't know, the aerobics instructor. It's just a different character, so you want to figure out what your character is. I also, besides going through everything in your closet prior to shopping, I also think that you can take photos of yourself in all of your favorite things. And this will also be a reminder of, oh, wow, I look really good in wrap dresses. Or, you can also photograph those things that you need to find something to pair with them. So you have a visual record, and whether you carry these photos laminated on a ring to a store, or you have them on your laptop and you have them in a really convenient file to open up, either one is fine. I also would say that prior to shopping, start a style file. If you see things in magazines or on blogs, start a collection of things that inspire you. I think that it's always great to say, okay, what's the vibe that I'm going for? And instead of, having to articulate, well, I'm looking for pretty, or I'm looking for edgy, etc. It's really great to have photos. They're really, really helpful to have. So if we could go to the next slide. So I mentioned earlier shopping the holes. And so here's what I consider holes. These are 3 focal point pieces that could be in a wardrobe, but when I say focal point, they're not necessarily going to go with everything else. They need some specific accompaniments. And so these would be the holes. And I always say, every time you go shopping, you need to look at what the holes are, and you need to fill them in. And if 2 seasons go by and you haven't filled in a hole, maybe that piece goes away. Because it probably shows that it's not that important to you. And so just as an example, if you look at these 3, you'll notice that first blouse with the flowers, is it, do you get a pair of sage green skinny jeans to wear with it, and maybe a thin metallic belt, things like that. So what would go with it? And hopefully whatever you purchase can also go with some other things as well. The more multi-purpose items in a wardrobe, the better. So if we could go to the next slide. So always shop your true colors. If you look at other Feel Good Beauty videos, you can see my segments on finding your true colors, your version of red, your neutrals, etc. We each possess a very specific group of colors in our eyes, hair, and skin, which are the clues to the best colors that we wear. Again, back to that idea of the great portrait painting, they're the colors that illuminate us. So if you put Mona Lisa against cobalt blue, there'd be a disconnect. And so the idea is what you wear is like that surround of the subject of the great portrait painting, and it's going to illuminate you. And so check out my other videos on finding your true colors. But I cannot stress enough how important it is to stay in your palette. This way, everything's going to always look good on you. You're going to have one set of makeup, and everything is going to coordinate really well in your closet. If you know your own combination of color clearly works on you, and if you're illuminating it, all of those colors are going to look great together. So I also would say that when it comes to color, never feel restricted by seasonal colors. Your personal colors work year round. And a great example of that would be a winter coat. It doesn't have to be dark. It could absolutely be light. Like if you have an energy color, which is the darkest color found in your eye, that is if you found a light version of your energy color, that's a really unexpected, really interesting choice for a winter coat. And one thing that you'll hear me say probably every time we get together is that the unexpected draws the eye. And why not? Why not do the unexpected? And a few other things with color. I just want to also mention that when you're shopping, sometimes something that's in one of your most flattering colors doesn't mean you should buy it just because of the color. We also want to remember that the fit, the texture, etc., are all really, really important. If you think about it, unless you're the muse for a specific designer, are they designing exactly for you? And sometimes the color might be right, but the styling may be wrong. So let's say it's a very soft color, but the styling is really edgy, and you're really more of a classic type, and the styling's just too aggressive on you. So all of it is really, really important. I also would say that when you're shopping for color, a neutral will never make a greater impression than a color. Color will always stand out more. So your version of red is always going to stand out more than your version of black. And I call those the romantic color and the first base. So if we could go to the next slide. So now we're going to go into some of my favorite tips when we're out shopping. So one thing that is also really helpful is following your face. So your face is going to give you a lot of lines. And I'm going to tell you one right now and one a little bit later. And one of them is your neckline. So you're going to always follow the shape of your jaw. And this is a really simple, easy to activate tip. So look at the shape of your jaw and decide if it's round, if it's more angular. And then beyond that, look in your face for the shapes of more angles or more rounded features, or more oval features. And so you just want to follow this. So let's say you have a very oval chin, chances are a scoop neck is going to look really beautiful on you. If you're very rounded, and let's say, your chin is round, and let's say you have very round cheeks, chances are a crew neck is going to look great. And if you have more of an aquiline profile, you're probably going to look best in a V-neck. Again, follow what's there. Don't fight it. You are absolutely fantastic, and we want to illuminate all of that. We want to take what's there and run with it. So if we could go to the next slide. So pattern and print are another really important thing when you are shopping. And I want to just say that one of the things that I notice is that oftentimes the biggest pothole, if you will, on the road to shopping with pattern and print is shopping for prints that are too large. And so I typically will say if the repeat of a pattern on a dress is larger than your face, it's going to distract from you. And so if you look at the examples that I have here on the left, you'll see that all of those prints are doing it. Even though the blue one is more abstract, the repeat of it is really, really large. And so typically, a lot of these prints will wear you. We're not gonna notice you as well. This kind of scale is fantastic for something like a wallpaper in a home, but to wear, it just doesn't illuminate quite as well. And the examples on the right are all scaled to work with a person in mind, if you will. So this is something that happens in fashion from time to time, where prints are just scaled super duper large. And I would just say try to avoid going too big, even if the colors are right. Because the scale is really important. Another thing that I will mention here is contrast level. This is another thing with print that will how would I say, could either help or hinder. So your contrast levels are how much contrast can you wear in a print? So if you look at this page and you look to the left, there's a white dress with some red flowers and yellow flowers and so on. And that dress is very high contrast. And if you look at the first dress on the right, kind of a ditzy pattern, and it's more low contrast. And so a really good way to figure this out is if you were to put on a dark jacket, like your version of black or your first base, and you can look at one of my other videos to find out what that is for you. And then I would try it with 3 different shells underneath and try a white or an off-white or a cream or a pale gray or whatever your version of white is with that. And then I would try a mid-tone, and then I would try a color maybe just one shade lighter than the jacket and see which one looks the best. And that's a really super simple way to figure out what contrast level that you're going to be shopping for. So one other thing I'll share here is that if you are shopping pattern on an item and 75% of the colors are your most flattering, it will work. If there's one stray color in that print that you're like, yeah, that doesn't look right, that's not on my palette, that's fine, but 75% should work. I also would say don't pull out that one color though that is less flattering. So let's say there's a apple green in the print that doesn't look great, but all of the other shades of green are great. Don't pull out the apple green for the belt or the shoes or the bag. You want to kind of pretend it's not there and overwhelm it with the correct colors for you. I also would say that when you are shopping for patterns, if you're going to do some pattern mixing, generally speaking, choosing a smaller one near your face is best. Again, it's that competition thing. So the smallest pattern usually near the face is best. So there's a little bit on shopping for pattern and print. Now let's shop for shoes. And so shopping for shoes, so whether you're shopping in person or let's say you've ordered online, try shoes on in the afternoon to determine whether they fit or not. Your feet will swell during the day, and if you wait till the afternoon, your feet are going to be at their largest, and you're going to most probably not wind up with shoes that don't fit properly. I also would say never, ever, ever buy shoes that don't fit or are uncomfortable. If you are trying them on for the first time and they're not comfortable, they're not going to become comfortable. That's never, ever, unfortunately, going to happen. I also would say that if you are shopping for shoes and you find that they're slightly large, always try an insole. It's a really great way to fill up part of the shoe. I also would say that if you are shopping shoes that are in a leather or a fabric or something that can stretch, a shoe can be stretched by a cobbler, or you can do it yourself. You can buy shoe stretch and shoe trees and do it yourself. And you can always stretch the arch a bit in shoes. You can't stretch length, but you definitely could do just a little bit of length, or a little bit of width rather. If you are shopping for an all-purpose shoe, what would that shoe be? A lot of people would say, well, it's a black shoe. And I thoroughly disagree with that idea. If you're going to shop one pair of shoes, like let's say you're shopping for a trip, and whether it's a casual trip and you're going to wear sandals, or whether it's a dressier kind of thing, shopping a shoe in your best metallic is perfect. If a shoe goes with your jewelry, it goes with everything else that you wear. And so I'm showing you here an example of a gold and a pewter. Your version of your best jewelry might be copper or brass or bronze. But a shoe, whether it's a flat, a sandal, or a pump in your metallic, is always going to work. I also would say that a wider heel is always going to give a little bit more comfort in a shoe. And one other thing I want to go back to is that you should always look at shoes in a full-length mirror. You're not going to get the effect in a little one. And also remember what I said about necklines. That you're going to follow the shape of your jaw for your best neckline. You're actually going to do this exact same thing for your shoe shape. So if you are more angular, a pointier toe is going to be best. And if you have a very oval chin, something that ends a little bit softer in the toe is going to be prettier on you. So those are some shopping for shoe tips. And now let's go to handbags. So handbags, put your thumbs together and spread your hands wide. And that is going to be a fail-safe size for a clutch. And again, I'm going back to that idea of having things that are too big or distracting. So generally speaking, if you put your thumbs together, spread your hands out, that's a really, really good clutch size, or a crossbody as well. Again, we're going to follow the shape of your jaw. So let's say this purse that we're looking at right here, let's say that it ends in an extreme point in the flap. And that would really be great with someone who is more angular, whereas it would be a little bit aggressive on someone that has more round shapes in their face. I also would say that matching a great color for a purse would be to match the color of the ring around your iris, which would be your version of black, or your first base. Again, you can check out one of my other videos for that. And this is a really good tip to purchase a formal bag in. For a more informal bag, I would actually go to the lightest color found in your hair. And that would be your third base or your casual neutral. Just remember that when you are purchasing a handbag, the more structured a bag is, the more formal it is. So think about that when you're shopping. And also, I just wanted to say, when you are shopping, matching the color of a purse to a shoe is fine, but you want to vary the texture. So if one is metallic, the other one should not be. If one is suede, the other one should be leather, etc. And a pattern in a purse is a wonderful way to tie an outfit together, to tie different colors together. So let's talk about jeans. Right now, a lot of people are in a casual mode. A lot of people are working at home. And so when you're shopping for jeans, just know that don't be upset if you try on a tremendous number. I would say that pant shopping, and especially jeans, are probably the hardest because there are so many body types, and jeans, each brand of jeans is so specific to a body type. I would say that when you are trying them on, always bend down in the knees and waist. You want to be comfortable in them. If you squat in your jeans, that's also really helpful. Again, if you're wearing them all day, you want them to be comfortable. I also would say pay attention to the waistband when shopping for jeans. Slide 2 fingers in, and if it's hard to do, the jeans might be a little bit tight. I also would say be aware of jeans with too much stretch to them. If a little stretch is fine, but a larger amount, what happens is they stretch out quickly. And the jeans that fit you so well after a few washings just won't. Also remember that things like whisking in denim always draw attention to the part of the body that it's on. So just be aware where that is. And never buy a pair of jeans or literally anything because they're the item of the moment. All really, really important. So if you're out shopping or online shopping and you really want to treat yourself, let's talk about shopping for a splurge. So you absolutely can splurge on something, meaning spending more than you normally do, but you need to wear it. It should not be a trendy item. In fact, like, the super trendy item of the moment, really bad idea to splurge on that. I think a splurge on something that's a bit more classic is best. A handbag is really, really good. A really lovely pair of shoes. Um, I would say any accessory, a piece of jewelry is really great for this. Maybe a classic coat. And then also, believe it or not, a piece of cashmere, like a really good quality cashmere piece, is also worth splurging on because the quality of it is really going to make it a long-lasting item in your closet. And I also would say that sometimes the splurge can be justified by the number of wearings. So again, if you live in a cold climate and you purchase a winter coat that's a bit more than what you normally spend, you're probably going to wear it a lot, and the use value is definitely going to add up to justify the splurge. So I also would say that another splurge would be, I mentioned jewelry earlier, like something like a hoop earring in a shape that follows your features. And again, this could be a hexagon, it could be a square, etc. We're going to follow the features, but that's another really, really good place to splurge. And as I mentioned, a handbag, and I would probably do the handbag, in that first base, or your the darkest color found around the ring of your eye. It's a really good, quote unquote basic black bag for you. And I would say that it's sometimes when you do splurge, remember this too. Let's say you splurge on a fancier bag or a fancier pair of shoes or a belt. It's really fun to mix formal and informal items together. So don't feel like, oh, this is my quote unquote good belt or this is my good bag. Mix it with the jeans and the cotton blazer and the casual things. It can be a really fun idea. And again, I'm going to go back to that idea of the unexpected always draws the eye. So let's talk now about, after you've gone shopping, putting it all together and taking it from good to wow. So here's an example of a beautiful focal point skirt. And so let's say this was one of the holes that we talked about earlier that was in your closet. It's really beautiful, but it's not something you can wear with everything, right? Because it's very specific. So let's shop for it. Let's go to the next slide. And you'll notice that we've put together this lovely black top, a pair of black studs, a black purse, and a black pump. It's very nice, right? It looks very put together, very clean. You'll know one thing I want you to notice. Do you notice that all of the accessories, the shoe and the bag, should actually the shoe and the bag are kind of the same texture as is the top. And the earrings connect with the skirt, with the beading in the skirt. So basically we have the blue and we have two textures of black put together, right? What happens if we add more textures of black to heighten it? All right, let's go to the next slide. So here, what we've done is we've created more textures of black, but we've also put something a little less expected with the skirt. So the turtleneck is less expected because, again, you're like, oh, it's a dressy skirt, I'll wear a dressy top with it. Where turtleneck is kind of a very clean, very modern take on it. And then you'll notice that the shoe is suede, the belt is like a silk file, the bag is quilted and patent leather, and then we get the beautiful corded finish of the earring. And so what we're doing is we're doing all of these different shades of, not shades of black, textures of black. So that's just another example of a really nice outfit, but then like, how do you take it further? This had the different textures of black create more drama with the outfit. Let's look at another example. So here we have a beautiful pink blazer. And so let's look at how we create a nice outfit with this. So we put it with white jeans, a white tank, diamond studs, silver flat, and a gray and white little bag. Totally very nice, very put together, very clean. And now let's look at what the wow could be. So here we've taken the same jeans, but then we paired, again, when you think about satin, you think, oh, dressy, formal, but we put this midi type striped Breton type t-shirt with it, which deformalizes it instantly. But then we put a heel with it, which in the concept makes it formal, but it's got a floral print on it. So it makes it informal. So we're creating a real juxtaposition. And then we've done a little color block with the bag. And then we've done a little bit of novelty. We're still doing a stud earring, but it's a flower. And then we've done just a little pop of the blue at the wrist. So we're creating a lot more texture, color, and dimension with this look. So let's look at one more. So here's another, what I would call a hole in the closet. So this is a very focal point sweater. It's got a lot of colors. It's got a lot going on already. So let's look at how we put together a nice look with this. So here's a pair of jeans. Here's a crossbody bag, some hoop earrings, a white thermal tank, suede booty, and a gold ring. Like very together. Looks very nice. So now let's take this to wow. So here we've done a leather pant with it. Why not? A metallic shoe, an earring, an angular earring, a snake ring, a beetle wing pendant, wooden bracelet, and a silk camisole. So we've got a lot more drama going on. And when you have a piece like this sweater, it's already got so much built into it that you can't ignore it. So with a solid color, there's a little bit more leeway. But this sweater not only has color, but you notice it has all of those angles to it already. So we have to we have to nod to those angles in some way. And we did that with the earring and the shoe. So we sort of bookended top and bottom with that. But then we added softness and another texture with both the cami, which is the softness, and then the texture of the leather pant. And then even the beetle wing pendant adds some like an opalescent kind of feel to it. So it gives it, again, a little bit more dimension. And again, I go back to the idea that the unexpected draws the eye. So those are some of my absolute favorite shopping tips. And what you're going to do at the end, after you're shopping, is what are you going to do? Photograph your wardrobe. I want to get you into that idea so that you know what you have each and every time you shop. So happy shopping. So now let us speak with one of my absolutely favorite people, Darla DeMorrow. And let me tell you a little bit about her. She's a certified professional organizer, decorator, speaker, and owner of Heartwork Organizing, LLC, based in Wayne, Pennsylvania. After more than 20 years of experience in corporate, she is having more fun by combining two loves, making homes more beautiful and meeting interesting people. Darla DeMorrow's award-winning business and blog, Heartwork Organizing, helps people lead more peaceful and beautiful lives. She holds a master's in business administration from Temple University and is the author of the Sort and Succeed series of books. And her mission is to help people achieve a sense of peace and purpose. Darla, welcome.
Thanks for having me on again, David. It's so fun to be here.
I'm so happy to have you. And you are going to, I was so intrigued by your topic for today. And to the idea of self-care through photo organizing. Tell us, what is this?
Well, just a bit of background. I like to give my superhero origin story because we all have one, right? And
Yes.
I just sat through your presentation and I always learn a lot. But we have so much in common. One of the reasons that we love each other, David, I think it's because we have so much in common. You know, as a professional organizer, I spend time in my clients' closets, kitchens, garages, you know, helping them get organized and find peace in their space. But about 10 years ago, I'll say, I was running across a lot of clients. We'd get to the back of organizing their closet and all the fun things that, you know, you just showed. Hey, can I wear this? Should I keep it? That sort of thing. And we'd always get to the back of the closet and there'd be a shoebox and it would be full of photos. And they'd pull it out and they'd say, what do I do with this? And everybody has that shoebox, or we have a bin of albums that we keep in the basement. And 10 years ago, you know, my answer was, well, it's in a box and it's kind of, you know, squarish and it fits on the shelf. So let's just leave it there. And about 10 years ago is when the was an organization, had a different name then, but now it's called the Photo Managers, and it's my professional organization that I belong to. And I got involved in that, and it was kind of, you know, when you get into a line of thinking and you think, you know, something just clicks. And I thought, okay, this is my technology background, my desire for organizing, and my desire to connect with people and help people connect with what's important. And so that's where photo organizing fits into my professional organizing business. And then we flash forward to 2021 and the pandemic, or 2020 rather, and the pandemic hits. And I wasn't able to go into people's homes and pick up their photos and, you know, organize their closets as we normally had done. But my photo organizing part of the business just exploded. It is the perfect pandemic project to get into your photos and to enjoy them. And for all of the reasons that we're going to talk about today, as I started to think about, you know, why are people reaching out to me in droves? Why do I have all of these projects, many of which you can see behind me in this is not a virtual background, this is my real office. And, you know, why are people wanting to get into their photos right now? And And so I started thinking about all the different clients that I've worked with and what their motivations are. And sometimes not even their motivations. Sometimes it's what happens when I hand them back the project and what they tell me they can do with the photos that have been trapped in shoeboxes and bins and crates for decades, literally decades. I showed a film to somebody just yesterday, and we had converted this film from a digital, sorry, from a reel film. You know, if you can picture Hollywood reels, we had converted it from a reel film into a digital item that I had placed on YouTube for her. And she now was watching it for the first time. And I said, "This is the first time you've seen this in 50 years." And she was literally speechless for a few minutes. And then she started telling me about, you know, the 5 sisters that were shown in the video. So these are points of connection that we are so craving right now in the middle of a global pandemic. And I wanted to come on and talk to people about, you know, don't put it off any longer, right? Get back into your photos. And not only is it something we all feel like we should do at some point, but I'm going to give you real reasons why it is something that you want to do right now, because it is, in fact, a form of self-care, or at least I think it is.
So walk us through this.
Yeah. So the first thing, I'll just give you an example from my own life. I have 2 young daughters, and if you're, well, I'll share with you. I have a little bit of a show and tell. I hope you don't mind, David. But this is one of the albums that I made for my family. And you can see it's, you know, high quality. I love to have people handle their albums once they have them. And this is actually my daughter on the front cover. And she's leaning up against, this actually comes up on the next slide. I'll show that in a minute, not yet, but she's leaning up against a building. And these are actually, it's a shutter and a door in Paris. So this is our Paris trip a couple of years ago. And it's a very casual photo. I took it. It's not a photographer, you know, or anything like that. But it's a very high quality album. And I was gratified to see a couple of months ago, and actually this has happened several times during the pandemic, my daughter laying on the couch, flipping through our albums, because I'm pretty diligent about making album trips once we come home. And they're never perfect, but they're always done. And I was never more gratified to see that time that I had spent putting together my own family's albums. And David, you know this as well as I do, the cobbler's children usually never have shoes, right? But my photo albums do get done. Again, they are never perfect, but they are always done. So I have these albums that my daughter now, who's 11, she flips through and she turns to me and she says, "Mom, I want to go back to Paris. Mom, I can't wait to travel again. Mom, when can we see our friends again?" And, you know, this is important to me, not only because I miss those places too. I want to be back in Paris so badly. And we will be soon. We will come out the other end of this. I have no doubt. But, you know, it's helpful to me to have that happy place in my head and in my hands that I can literally open. And I'm also sharing that with my daughter. So, you know, David, I'm sure you have a situation like that. You can think of a trip that you've taken and you're just happy to have those photo memories to look at.
Oh gosh, absolutely. So when we go to the closet and we discover, oh my God, this shoebox, it's there. And it's so funny you mention it, because I know of several people that have that, and it somehow ends up in the clothes closet, and I'm not sure how that happens, but
Only if we're lucky. If we're really unlucky, they're in the basement, the garage, and the attic, and that is not where your photos want to live. Your photos want to live where you live, and the closet is usually a conditioned space with the same kind of humidity, heat, and cooling. It may not be directly heated and cooled, but it has the same kind of environment that we like to be in. So yes, that's where a lot of times the photos do end up if we're lucky.
so we've got that box. And you say, okay, let's create, curate these memories, if you will. What is the first step?
So there's, depending on the size of your project, it could be a big deal, it could be a small deal. Obviously, I'm a photo organizer for a living. So I have the clients that work with me are they've either curated that shoebox and now they want to do something that they wouldn't normally know how to do. So they want to digitize them, scan those photos and get them into some electronic method that they can easily access. Usually it's your phone or your computer. So they either come to me for that, or they come to me because they literally have no idea what to do with these 10 big plastic bins that have been in their garage, their basement, or their attic for a decade, and people just literally drop stuff off at my door, or I come pick up, and I have a minivan, and oftentimes I will just fill it up. And then we go through this 5-step process that I'm going to completely oversimplify for you here, but just to give a view of what you can do with your photos, and that you shouldn't expect to do it all in one afternoon. Because again, this is a full-time job for people like me. So just completely oversimplifying, if you have old photos or even if you don't have old photos yet, you probably will get them from your parents one day, but maybe your photo collection is mostly or completely digital right now. The steps are the same. You want to gather your photos together, or gather all of your photos together. And it's not, I'm saying photos, but it's more than that, right? It's keepsakes, it's slides, films, VHS, trophies, old books, important documents. All of those things really sort of end up in those keepsake collections. So we gather all of that together. We do a quick organizing. We organize it as best we can. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. We preserve that material. And again, sometimes the preservation is scanning to digital, and sometimes the preservation is preserving the physical thing and maybe storing it in archival storage. And then that's 3 out of 5, right? So gather, organize, preserve. And then you want to share memories. And that's what I'm here to talk about today, at least a little in part. And then maintaining your collection. So you're going to hopefully continue to take pictures. So you'll need to organize photos going forward, but you'll also need to maintain your collection if you intend to pass any or all of it down to the next generation. So again, complete oversimplification, but you can do many of those things at home. You might need to reach out to a professional like me. There are people all across the country who will handle your photo collection. But the big takeaway that I want people to have from your show today is that it's not worth waiting any longer. Now is the time, right? We can take care of ourselves by getting into our collection, by revisiting our trips, by sharing important photos with people. I have one photo I'm kind of noodling through right now, whether I want to actually digitally restore it or whether I can get my hands on the original from the newspaper that took this photo. But I was in a beauty pageant a million years ago, David. And there is photographic evidence of it. And there's a couple of people who've seen that photo recently, and they just think it's hilarious and hopefully heartwarming too. But anyway, that photo actually means something to a few people. So I kind of want to share it back out. And so that connection that, hey, I have this photo of us together, or I have this photo of this time in our lives, that is really meaningful when you can't necessarily travel to somebody's house. You can't travel across maybe the borders that you want to travel across. You don't want to get in a plane. Maybe it's somebody local and you just, I haven't been in my car in 10 days. That means I haven't seen a whole bunch of people that I normally would have seen, so sending pictures, and whether it's over Facebook or messaging or just an email, it's all too, it's too easy to do, to ignore right now. Connect with people with those photos. It's so much more than, it's worth so much more than leaving those photos in the basement to mold or rot.
Yeah. We are in such a nostalgic period right now and why not take our memories and preserve, but also share like this. I think this is such a wonderful, timely subject that you're sharing with us today. I'm curious if someone today, like right after this program, said, I'm going to go to this shoebox. how do I I have all these random photos. What is your best advice on separating them into either themes or categories, etc.?
So a project that I'm working on right now, you can kind of see over my shoulder here. Can you see that in the frame?
Yes, yes.
This is one of our archival boxes that I love to use. And what you just asked is, how do we make sense of it? What we do for clients all the time, and I suggest that people do this as well, is find your photos and just try and organize them chronologically. You'll find that they are maybe kind of sort of organized chronologically. People get tied up in, oh, well, maybe I should organize them by person or by, place or what. There's 9 or 10 different ways that we can organize it, but honestly, every single time we end up organizing chronologically. And don't get worried about whether it was 1971 or 1972. Nobody cares at this point. You know what decade it was. So if all you can do is place your photos in a decade and kind of revisit at a decade level versus a year level versus a month and day, that is still helpful. And then as you're going through, you said the word a minute ago, David, curate your photos. Most of my clients will throw away between 25 and sometimes up to 50% of their photo collection because it was duplicates when we used to get prints. They're bad photos. Remember, when we paid for photos, we kept every single one of them because we were told, well, maybe you could, crop something out and use it in a scrapbook later. Okay, we never did, but we've got all those photos now, and they're just taking up space. So just like much of our life, just like our closet, David, get it down to the essential collection that is meaningful to you, and you will find that you will enjoy it much more. I will flash this book up again. I probably took 3,000 photos on this trip. There's probably, there's about 25 pages in here. And if there's 100 pictures in total, that's a lot. Out of those 3,000 photos, they're not all as important, right? As they're not all equally important. So curating down to a collection that that makes sense and that means something to you and that you can do something with, which leads me to my next way of using your photos as a self-care item. Get them into your home. Pick the best ones, frame them, turn them into gifts. Create a gallery wall. I love creating gallery walls for people. Do all of that so that those photos are no longer sitting in boxes, kind of an island unto themselves, but bring them back into your life. I love to see them on people's phones because they can get to them and share them more easily. But really, if there's an important photo in your life, make a coffee table book, frame the art, do something with it. And that's becoming even more important because another way that we can be dealing with self-care or helping ourselves through this time. And I'm still trying to figure out the right way to talk about this without being morbid. But the reality is we have lost 400,000 Americans in the last year. That is 400,000 fathers, mothers, brothers, sisters, friends that are no longer here to tell their story. And once they're gone, the portion of their story that they could tell in their photos is also gone. So it's a way for us to get back into our photos and not only remember the people that we've lost, but the people who are still here. But they're the old saying, none of us is getting out of this alive, right? So we all want to have sort of a story. Tell your story. Be able to pass it down. Don't wait until you're gone. That will be too late. So getting into your photo collection and processing. Oh, I loved when we used to go over to Aunt Peggy's. Those were some fun family times. And I love when we went over to Grandma's. Well, Grandma's no longer here anymore, but that story still lives with you. And in a year that has been marked with personal loss and kind of cultural loss, I mean, we're still trying to find a way to make sense of the year that we're living in, going back and being nostalgic and having those memories actually does good things for your brain. I won't get into the brain chemistry here, but nostalgia can be very healing, right? So, and then the kind of the last thing that I would say is don't stop taking pictures. I have had people say to me, well, I'm not really going to be able to make a book in 2020 because we didn't go anywhere. No, we still lived, right? We're still soldiering on. We're doing things differently. I know people who are taking screenshots of the Zoom calls that they're on because that's the family gathering that they're having, and those become the family events that you have this year. We have a lot of pictures of me and my family, my children in front of the TV this year. We watched, instead of watching the Kentucky Derby, we actually watched the Kentucky Turtle Derby. I don't know if you heard about that.
I missed that. Yeah.
Yeah, but I have a picture of my family in front of this event, which we probably never would have even appreciated, the real Kentucky Derby. But because it was the Kentucky Turtle Derby, which is a real thing, we have a picture of it, and that becomes our life. And actually, I created a pandemic album for my family last June. I didn't know when the pandemic was going to end. And of course, now that seems forever ago. But this is just a snapshot in time from March to June of last year. And the cover is sidewalk chalk that my daughter did in the driveway. So these are all good memories of a terrible, terrible time in history, right? And that's another way that we could be doing self-care. So don't wait until the end of the story to tell the story. So
Darla,
I just gave you a ton of ideas, but I hope, people take away from this, and actually we can flash that slide now, because I want people to kind of think about, what they can do to get into their photos and take care of themselves. And of course, I have more resources if people want to visit sortandsucceed.com, or my other, it's just an easy way to remember what I'm all about is Sort and Succeed. My business is also heartworkorg.com. And, I encourage people to go and look at all the resources that I have there on handling, gathering, protecting, sharing, and maintaining your photos. There's tons of free resources, and I would be honored if I can help people do something with their photos.
Darla, thank you so much for all this great advice. We can follow you through your website and find your books there, etc. We really appreciate all that you shared with us today. Lots to think about. Time to go to the closet, everyone, and grab that shoebox this afternoon. So thank you again. We really appreciate your expertise. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, David. Have a great day.
So we are now going to chat with Thomas Farley, also known as Mr. Manners, who's an etiquette expert, speaker, and author who's inspiring audiences to master essential communication strategies for success in the workplace and in life. He's worked with clients including the United States Department of Commerce, the Estee Lauder Companies, JP Morgan Chase, the Walt Disney Corporation, Toyota, UPS. He's a regular and popular guest on the NBC Today show, where he fields questions on matters of modern day etiquette, subjects from avoiding awkward hugs to what not to wear to a company beach outing. And in 2017, he debuted Manners on the Move, a special Today show series that examined inclusivity in America. He has also appeared on Dr. Oz, the New York Times, the Los Angeles Times, USA Today, and on radio stations across the country. He edited the anthology Modern Manners, The Thinking Person's Guide to Social Graces as well. Thomas Farley, thank you for joining us.
David, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. And I have to say, I love these programs that you put together, whether your own here or the National Arts Club programs. They're always just so wonderful and informative. And it's such an honor for me to be able to take part.
Oh gosh, well, this is your second time here, and so I thank you because you've added to that immensely already, and we absolutely cannot wait to hear your advice today. Because I have to tell you, Thomas, when we were chatting about this subject, I kept thinking to myself, oh my God, how many times over the years have I said, wow, I think I may have read that person wrong, or did I communicate? Why didn't they understand when I thought I was so clear? And so today you're going to help us kind of decipher communication styles that might be a little bit different from our own.
That's exactly right. And I think that very struggle that you outlined is something that all of us at some point have experienced. So I have something called the daily mood calendar. And it's something that when I do a lot of work, in addition to my media work, I do a lot of work with corporations and everyone literally from coal miners in West Virginia to Native American Indians in Washington State and every profession in between. And something that I typically will bring as a fun activity to kick off my conversations with the corporate groups is this daily mood calendar. And it just to give you a sense of what this is like. So you may, for example, be feeling bouncy one day, and you're going to put that on your desk so people know who they are encountering that day, or maybe you're feeling contemplative. Well, my mood, David, for today, especially after I'm going to go out and I'm going to find all my V-neck sweaters, because I think I definitely have that angular chin. I don't know that I can pull off a crew neck as well as I can pull off a V-neck, but I am feeling, thanks to you and thanks to Darla so far, inspired today. So thank you for that. But the reality is, typically we don't have the luxury of knowing how someone is feeling on a particular moment. We don't, especially if somebody cycles through a lot of different emotions throughout the day, as most of us do. We may not be able to read them as well as we think, or as well as we hope we might be able to, especially if they're, as many of the actors that you work with on the soap operas certainly are very good at raising different emotions and disguising maybe the true emotions they might be having deep inside. The reality is, all of us as communicators fall into essentially 4 different categories. And so this particular program that I do, and I've done it again with literally thousands of people across the United States at this point, it involves a self-assessment program, which we obviously don't have time for here, and it's very individualized. But I did want to be able to give kind of some of the top line highlights. And it's my hope that a lot of this will resonate with those who are on the call today and provide some insights for them in terms of how best to deal with anyone in their lives as a communicator. And the reality is, when we travel, when we are able to travel once again, if you don't speak German, for example, and you go to Germany and you think, well, if I simply speak English in a very loud way, if I simply speak slower, perhaps they'll understand me better. The reality is, speaking more loudly doesn't usually work. Speaking more slowly probably is not going to work terribly effectively. So in the same way that even when we're all speaking the same literal language, if we're all speaking English, for example, there are still 4 different styles of communicating that fall into different language categories. And so if you continue speaking in your default, your native communication style to someone whose style is radically different from your own, you're not going to connect. And you're going to be frustrated, they're going to be frustrated. And the net goal of communication, which is either we communicate for one of 3 reasons. We communicate to persuade, we communicate to inform, as we're all doing here, or we communicate, number 3, to entertain, which hopefully we're doing here as well. So the idea of effective communication not meeting any one of those 3 goals because simply we're speaking in the wrong tongue for that individual in our presence is something that we can easily course correct as long as we know more about our audience. So as I said, there are 4 essential types of communicators, and there are variations. Sometimes you might be one person at work, one person at home. But the reality is, if you really fully understand these 4 types, you'll be able to make communication breakthroughs that you could not make previously. So we're going to start with my type, which is the peacock, which is kind of fun and maybe somewhat coincidental that I do so much work with NBC and the Today Show that I would happen to be a peacock. And I think, David, I have a feeling that, although I have a feeling that you have multiple aspects of several of these, but I think you probably are a peacock also. So the peacocks love people. The peacocks are the ones who, in ordinary times, when we're back in an office, we are standing by the water cooler, we are telling stories, we crave human connection, and we love being in large groups. have no fears of being on stage, have no fears of addressing an audience. These are people typically who will work in some kind of a high profile profession that allows them to get the stage or to get the attention that they enjoy having, that they enjoy using their platform as a means of communicating to others. And so with the peacock, those are all wonderful things that I've mentioned, but with each of these animal types, there are strong points and there are challenges. So the peacock's strengths are that they just bring people together. They're lively, they're fun, they're energetic, they're great to have at a party. Challenges often of the peacock, they sometimes are not the most organized. They are often procrastinators, and they often crowd out others because of their desire to have the stage for as long as they do. So I'm going to make sure I don't do that during our time together. But that's an area that peacocks do need to work on. So if you are someone who is not a peacock yourself, you're perhaps one of the 3 other animal types, and you're feeling like you are not connecting well with that individual, particularly if this is a work situation, or maybe even might be a child, one of your children is a peacock and you're not. The idea of appealing to a peacock is to appeal to their sense of ego. So a peacock loves to be flattered for how wonderful its feathers are, if we're speaking hypothetically here. So the more attention you can give that peacock, the more praise you can give that peacock. So for example, if your child is someone who just loves to be the center of attention, loves the spotlight, but you're having difficulty motivating that child to do his or her homework, by praising them for a good aspect of what they've done, or by giving them great attention for that, it's going to motivate them in ways that they might not be motivated otherwise. So, Charlie, I've got to say, I was so impressed with the way you handled your math homework yesterday. Those problems are so difficult. I don't think I could even accomplish them, but you really, once you put your mind to it, Charlie, you really sailed through that. That was a great job. Now, somebody who's not a peacock may not like that level of adulation, but with the peacock, by giving them the spotlight, giving them the attention, giving them the platform they crave, they feel like they're in their natural element. And this will allow you to make a greater connection with them. So those are our peacocks. We'll move on next to our turtles. Very, very different style of persona from the peacock. The turtles are our Excel spreadsheet people. They are the people who are not on time, they're 10 minutes early. Their calendars are organized. I'm imagining Darla, although she certainly seems very much a people person, for Darla to be able to do what she does, she certainly has to summon up her inner turtle in the sense that she's super organized. Everything's methodical, everything has a rhyme or reason. And it's no coincidence that I talk about both of these 2 animal types, the peacock and the turtle, back to back, because they're often the ones that don't communicate well with one another. The peacocks find the turtles are just too process oriented. They get bogged down and nitpicky about things. The turtles, on the other hand, feel that the peacocks are just too fly by night and are unreliable or flaky. So with a turtle is always craving reasons why. Turtle craves logic. A turtle craves reason. So again, back to the example of your son Charlie, who has to do his math homework. By giving Charlie the why for that homework, the why this needs to get done, and if you've got a particularly stubborn turtle in your hands, that may not necessarily work. But the worst thing that you can do with a turtle is saying something like, I don't have time to explain it, but you just need to do it. That is a very, not the strategy I'd recommend at all with the turtle, because the turtle now, even though they might do it because they have to, because they feel like they're being compelled to, they're not going to be happy about it because they were never given the reason. Not all the animal types need that reason. Some are just happy to do it because of the outcome. But with the turtle, the more orderly, the more process oriented you can be, and the more reasoning that you can provide, the happier they will be. Next, we will move on to the lion. So the lion is the leader. The lion is very cut and dry. The lion is all about making quick decisions. They don't need lots of time to decide things. They're very often, although not always, but very often the people at the top of an organization. they, again, inspire others. Their challenges are they're not always the greatest listeners. So again, the lions and the peacocks will sometimes butt heads because the peacocks want to just go on and on and on and talk and give them lots of detail. And the lions don't care about that. The lions simply want the executive summary. And what will often happen, and this is particularly true with the peacocks and the lions, is that the peacock will be proposing something to the boss or to the parent or to a friend or a colleague or a significant other. And the peacock gets the yes from the lion, which is ideally, that's the desired outcome. And the peacock, instead of just taking the yes and running with it, the peacock in the presence of the lion will say, oh, that's so great. Oh, I'm so glad you said that because I was thinking, and they now go on for another 35 minutes when they've already got what they're actually now undoing is they're just about to undo the yes that they just got from the lion. So with the lion, because they are so quick to make decisions, quick to tune in and quick to tune out, we want to think of reaching them when they're at their best, when they're most attentive, by saying things like, I've done the homework, here's what you need to know. I've done the research, here's the bottom line. When a lion hears phrases like that, their ears perk up because they know, okay, all I really need to do is tune into this and I'm good. And then I can move on to the next thing I can do. Another approach with a lion, which is very effective, is, and which we often see in presentations. I've done work on this. Here are the 5 things that you really want to know if you want to be successful. Here are the 5 things to follow. Number 1 is such, number 2, and continue along the line. So the more concise, direct, also confident. So if you have a boss who's a lion and you feel that boss is very intimidating and a little bit frightening to you, if you go into the lion's office and say, hey boss, I had this idea, but oh, I'm not sure, maybe now's not a good time, or oh, maybe it's not such the best idea after all, the lion has already discounted you. So the more confident you can be, which of course, David, entails putting on your best outfit that makes you happiest and makes you feel confident when you're in that arena, but the more assertive you can be in your approach, that's not going to intimidate the lion. The lion rather is going to respect that and appreciate that approach. And our final animal is the dove. The dove, just such a wonderful person to have in any group, any community, any office, because the dove is just, and if we could just advance to the next slide so we can see our beautiful doves. There we go, thank you. The dove is the peacemaker. The dove does not want to be admired in the way that the peacock does. The dove does not want to be in charge in the way that the lion does. The dove does not need to be proven correct as the turtle does. The dove simply wants to be liked. So the dove in any group or any organization is typically the one who has opinions, has thoughts, but doesn't always voice them, either because the dove feels it's not the dove's place, or they just don't feel it's appropriate for them to jump in. So with a dove, because they have valid opinions that we may simply not hear, oftentimes we'll see a dove will, in their desire to be liked, will be smiling and nodding while the other person is talking. But then inside, the dove is thinking, this is not me at all. I can't get on board with this. But still, in their desire to be agreeable, all their body language is telling us that they agree when in fact they don't. And we may not find that out until the very end of a conversation where a dove would typically say something like, well, I need to think about this, or I'm not so sure, maybe I can talk to you about it next week. They avoid decisions. They don't like to be rushed. So if you work with a dove or have a group, a member of your group or family who's a dove, the key with that individual is to be empathetic, to not come on super strong or aggressive, but rather constantly engage them with asking them how they feel about something. And even further, don't wait until the very end if you're proposing an idea to say, okay, so what do you think? Because by then you've talked this whole time thinking they were with you when in fact they may not be with you at all. So rather with the dove, what you want to do is periodically take the pulse of the conversation. So say things like, based on everything that I've mentioned so far, how are you feeling about this? Is there anything I can answer for you at this time before I move on? What questions might you have before we continue? So these are some ways of being able to engage the dove in a level and in a manner that most ensures that effective communication with the dove. And so with that overall sense, I find it's really fun. I'll sit in times when we're back on the New York City Transit again. I'll sit on the subway and I'll kind of look up from my book and I'll think, okay, I wonder if I can identify the various animal types on this subway car. And I will never know whether I'm right or not, but there are certain cues that will tell you that someone is a certain animal type or not, even if you're not in conversation with them. So for example, the person who's reading the newspaper, and David, I know you know this, you've seen this type of person who has that newspaper and they've got it so beautifully folded in six folds, and then they kind of wrap it and then it's perfectly creased and folded again as they continue, and I think when I read a newspaper, when I actually do read a newspaper, it's a mess. It never looks the same at the end as it did when I bought it. But the person who's able to do that, who's just absolutely fanatical about their appearance, everything is perfect, most likely is a turtle. Somebody who's wearing lots of splashy colors, somebody who's wearing lots of splashy jewelry, who wants to be noticed and wants to be acknowledged for what they're wearing. This person most likely is a peacock. So there are neat kind of little ways that we can keep in practice for this, whether you're in line at a grocery store or meeting people once we're able to meet people again for the very first time, that will allow you on the fly to adapt your approach with them so that you make a true connection and don't feel like, you know what, we just didn't connect and I don't know why. Now, with a greater sense of these 4 animal types, it's my hope that your audience has a better sense of how to connect with people who communicate differently from the way we do. And by the way, one last thing, it would be a boring world if we were all one type. So none of these types is negative, none of these types is bad. You can imagine how difficult it would be to operate a family or a company or a group of friends if you were all lions or if you were all peacocks. You need that mix and you need people to be at their best, not minimizing their challenges and accenting all the wonderful aspects of that particular personality to have an organization that truly flourishes.
Thomas, this is fascinating. And I think I have identified every single person that in my life while you were describing them. Here is information on how to stay in touch with Thomas. But I also want to say what I found so fascinating is that you not only have identified all these different types, but you've given us some fantastic examples of how each type hears information. That's really important. It's not just about what we say, but it's how it's translated through the lens or the filter, I should say, of another type that's different from ourselves. Such great advice. Wow. And I'm now thinking about, yes, I think I've identified everyone in my life as we were chatting, and it was your descriptions were so vivid that it was extraordinarily easy to do so. Gosh, thank you so much for this. This has been extraordinary as always. And Thomas, thank you so much. We really appreciate all that you do.
Thank you for everything you do, David, truly. You've made this pandemic far more palatable thanks to your continuing options for all of us to remain engaged and further educated.
Oh gosh, well, thank you so much. Thank you, Thomas. So we have one more guest today, and it is one of my favorite people. Her name is Esther Blum. She's an integrative dietitian and high performance coach. She's helped thousands of women permanently lose weight, eliminate the need for medication, lose stubborn belly fat, and reverse chronic illness. She's the best-selling author of Cave Women Don't Get Fat, Eat, Drink, and Be Gorgeous, Secrets of Gorgeous, and the Eat, Drink, and Be Gorgeous Project. She was voted Best Nutritionist by Manhattan Magazine, and she's appeared on programs like Dr. Oz, The Today Show, A Healthy You with Carol Alt, Good Day New York, and Fox News Live. She received a Bachelor of Science in Clinical Nutrition from Simmons College in Boston and is a graduate of New York University, where she received her Master of Science in Clinical Nutrition. Esther, welcome.
Hey, David. So glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
So happy to see you. And I know that you are going to share with us your phenomenal advice on how we can prevent overeating in our future. Esther, how do we start? How do we do that?
All right. Well, everyone, I'm going to give you the chance to get up. I'm going to give everyone exactly 60 seconds to, I can't see any of you, but I'm going to honor system here. You have 60 seconds to get up, go to your kitchen, and get something sweet and something savory. So the clock starts now. Go.
I'm going to go to the kitchen. Excuse me.
Do it. I'm going to start my timer. Okay, good. I see Catherine's back. Good. Who else? Who can share what they have? This is going to be interactive and fun. So get chatty in the comments. Share what you got. You got dried apricots, dried mangoes. Awesome, Darla. Dried mangoes are my favorite. My hair looks beautiful. Thanks, Lisa. Thanks. Okay, good. Seaweed snacks. Ooh, chocolate, king cake and truffle cheese. Awesome. Dark chocolate and brown rice crisps. Great. Oh, raspberries and Inca corn. Very interesting. Raisin and pretzel. Okay.
Oh my
First,
God.
we're going to start with
Rebecca Stilling. Yes. Wow. Those are
awesome, right? I mean, talk about learning who your spirit animals are through peanuts and good and plenties. Oh yeah, Lisa, awesome. Organic roasted seaweed. Okay, chocolate covered almonds and spicy nuts. Amazing. Okay, so I want y'all to take your sweet. I want you to close your eyes and I want you to put that sweet in your mouth, okay? And as you do it, I was gonna do it myself, but then I couldn't talk, right? But
I'll do it. So
what do you have, David? Is that a chocolate covered Oreo?
It's a chocolate covered peppermint candy.
Beautiful. One of my all-time favorites. Okay, so I want you to take a bite and I want you to hold it in your mouth. I want you to press your tongue to the roof of your mouth. And if you want, you can close your eyes. No, don't chew it, okay? Pretend you're in church. This is your wafer. You're in the church of chocolate now, everybody. And or the temple. Okay, but you're really in the temple of pleasure right now. What do you taste? What is coming up for you? Is it better than you remember? Is it like lighting up the pleasure centers in your brain? Or is it maybe not as good as you thought it was? Do you taste all, does your brain feel all the pleasures unfolding, all the senses unfolding? It's yummy. Okay, Lisa, you got your good and plenty's good. Pretty good, pretty good. Okay. I remember the first time I did this was with a Hershey Kiss, and I've done this exercise in a room for 300 people, and people were like, it didn't taste as good as I thought. So clearly you guys are dialed into what does taste good. David, how did it taste for you? Did it light up the pleasure centers?
It did.
Sorry to ask you. Okay, it did the check, right? Now, when you're done with that, if you like, you can either leave the sweet taste as is and don't touch, or you can try the same with the salty. Okay. His mouth is full. Yes, I know, Lisa. Raspberries out of season, not so much, right? So when was the last time you sat and truly tasted the food that you are eating? When was the last time? Like normally we put food on our plate And we just kind of eat it because it's just kind of there. And we're like, oh, this tastes good. This tastes good. But we keep chewing and chewing and just kind of eating mechanically, fork to mouth, fork to mouth, fork to mouth. And then we're done. That's it. We haven't really thought about the unfolding of the flavors because we're eating quickly. We've got calls to make. We've got a family to feed. Well, then we have the dinner dishes to clean. And then I just want to be on the couch in my pajamas and I just want to be over. Or we have our snacks, our sweets in front of the TV. So we're looking at the screen, but not necessarily looking at our food or making the connection between food and our bodies. And, you know, if you think about the book, French Women Don't Get Fat. Yeah, and this is it. Catherine's saying, I don't enjoy the food in the US as much as the food in France, right? Well, that's a whole nother discussion. But if you think about the book, French Women Don't Get Fat, the reason why many cultures like France, you don't really, you know, in Paris, especially, you don't really see obese people as a whole. And you see people sitting in the cafes eating desserts at lunch and dinner. A, the portion is small, but B, we are so wickedly and wildly present in our eating. Imagine if every bite you spent 30 seconds actually chewing your food until it was the consistency of baby food. It was mush, it was puree, so that your body could digest it better and you weren't so bloated after your meals and kind of unsatisfied. But B, imagine a world where you had that much pleasure that you had with this one bite. Imagine that happening throughout your entire meal. What would happen? Do you think that you would ever overeat? Like, do you feel like you want to eat? And this is curiosity. There's no right or wrong answer. But after the experience you just had, do you think you want to overeat or go get 10 more? Or did that satisfy you? Did that bite really satisfy you? So Catherine said she wouldn't overeat. No. Okay. Anyone else? Anyone have some aha moments where like, wow, I'm really not tasting my food when I eat as much as I thought?
I'll share something.
Yeah.
And that is what I just experienced is something this is fascinating. What your work is unbelievable, but this is a fascinating exercise because I personally identify intellectually what that treat means in my life that I just had. And it's kind of an after dinner ritual, if you will. And today it was like, I said, it did the trick. It's like, yeah, it's peppermint and it's chocolate, but the chocolate's not really good chocolate. You know, like I'm just being very honest. Like, that's why I'm not using brand names, but it was very like it was kind of waxy chocolate. Like, and it's like, if you're going to eat chocolate, why not eat really good chocolate and enjoy it? And so it kind of like it was a marker for me. And it was like, okay, I know what this represents, but is it ultimately really good? And you just opened my eyes up to, no, it's fine, but it's not like, wow. And when you say, did you enjoy it? It's like, it was okay, but it wasn't what I would call enjoyable, you know, like it was not like one of the best things I've ever had. It wasn't a highlight of my day or a reward, really. Fascinating exercise.
Fascinating. Okay, Cedar's saying the Inca corn though. Oh, that sounds like it might have been good. But that's the thing is when we're really good at tasting our food and saying, am I even enjoying this? Or is the dessert I'm eating, because like we go, you know, we get takeout or we have eaten in restaurants where, you know, my husband's like, I'll have the tarte tartine. Now tarte tartine is yummy to me, but it's not my favorite dessert. Okay, chocolate's my favorite dessert, or lemon, things that are really tart. The dessert never gets better after the third bite. It doesn't, we eat it because it's there, but it tastes no different. And after a while, I'm like, I'm kind of sick of eating this. I don't even want it, but I do want a bite. And my son constantly makes fun of me because I say, I just want a bite. I just want to taste it, but I don't need all of it. Case in point, the other night he was eating some Haagen-Dazs caramel cone ice cream, right? And he said, Mom, you want some? And I said, I do. And he said, let me fix you a bowl. He brought me, I don't know if you ever see the salt bowls from like Fish's Eddie has these little salt bowls, right? You can get them in West Elm. He brought me a salt bowl with an espresso spoon full of ice cream because he knew I don't want all of it. I only want a bite or two. Gives me the satisfaction of having tasted it and experienced it, but I don't overeat. And I'm actually proud to say I've lost 5 pounds during quarantine, just being extra mindful, not being in a rush, just really stopping when I'm full and satisfied. And so if we learn to dial in, and I just want to just address I just want to address some of the comments here, David. Yeah, mindful eating. And Darla says, I love seasons 52 desserts rather than gobbling. They're served in essentially shot glasses, just enough, okay? And eating thoughtfully is also good manners. Of course, Thomas, of course. Why didn't I even think of that part? I left out the manners and just thought of the nutrition. And Grace says, as a child, I would do that because food was scarce. So I would eat and savor every bit as a way of making it last longer. It's a habit. And yes, you've always had a fantastic figure. You know what? That's something else we forget is that food, we are so gifted to have food in abundance. Most of us have food on the table every day, a roof over our head, and it's so easily available. I mean, there are aisles of desserts at the grocery store, top to bottom glass shelves in the refrigerator or freezer sections. And we forget that it really is meant to be savored and enjoyed rather than just gobbled down because it's there. So really the goal today was to keep it real simple, is to have you taste your food, to ask yourself, what do I even want to eat? Is it in the way that Thomas was talking about the animal archetypes, right? Like, what are your food archetypes? Do you want something salty, savory, sweet, crunchy, creamy, cold, hot? When you ask yourself, what do I really want? Even if you feel like it's not the quote unquote healthiest choice, we have to remember that pleasure is the best nutrient of all. And so if you're eating what you want, you're going to eat less of it naturally. When you incorporate the mindful eating exercise that you just did, that you can use the rest of your life, it's not going anywhere. When you incorporate mindful eating, when you taste your food, when you put your fork down between bites, and when you let your brain register the pleasure centers of the brain, register that food in the pleasure centers of the brain. And the way to do that is to actually press your food to the roof of your mouth with your tongue. And this works especially well with dark chocolate. Trust me on this one. You'll never overeat a day in your life. And you will stop when you're full, because satisfaction can happen mid-bite, where you say, I'm done, I'm good. And when you know that there is abundance and you can come back to it anytime you want to, that you'll never run out, because you haven't run out, hopefully, in your adult life, you're never going to overeat a day in your life. You're going to feel satisfied, joyful, and pleasure-filled when you are done with the experience.
Esther, for such wonderful advice. I do have one question. For those that have the conditioning of you have to clean your plate, what advice, how do we combat that issue?
Put your food on a salad plate, not a dinner plate, because a salad plate is much closer to the original serving sizes of food. Actually, our dinner plate is a huge portion, and just take less. Take half of what you would normally eat. If you don't, let's say you don't have salad plates, or you just, you don't want to eat a salad plate, that feels too little. Just take half of what you normally eat. I actually love eating, I bought some like wide bowls, shallow, wide bowls. And I love putting food in bowls, and I love eating with chopsticks, because that makes it a much slower process. Try to eat vegetables with chopsticks, people. Okay. It's a much slower experience. You're not inhaling your food by any means.
And do you find that many of us eat too quickly?
Yes, we
Yeah,
all do.
we all do.
All do. I mean, there are some days, I'm not going to lie, I've had 5 minutes between calls to eat.
Right.
And so maybe I'll eat half and then I eat half later. But the other thing I do personally, and this is where I always, my work lies for my own personal development, is saying, well, I only have this window to eat, but I'm not really hungry. But if I don't eat now, I can't eat till like 3 o'clock. And so that's always my challenge. So in those cases, like I'll put my food in a ramekin and just say, just take 3 bites of some tuna fish or canned salmon, and then, you know, something protein to really fill me up, and come back to it later. And oftentimes I'm really not that hungry. I'm not as hungry as I think I am. I'm just conditioned to eat on a clock, which is so silly. Rather than let my body dictate when I'm hungry, why don't I just ask my body, hey, you hungry? You're not? Then don't eat. Okay, how do I feel about veggie drinks without apple or anything sweet? Sure, vegetable drinks are very nutritious. I would say celery juice is one of my favorite for digestive wellness, but I always like the fiber in vegetables. Unless you're digestively compromised, I like the fiber in vegetables. Okay, somebody said, Catherine said, I feel I need to eat more because the pandemic will prevent us from going out to buy food. It's like I'm in panic mode. Well, with fear, it's always good to challenge the fear and say, is this true? Ask yourself if it's really true. Has that truly happened to you yet? Chances are it hasn't. And chances are, God forbid, I mean, have any of us ever literally run out of toilet paper during this pandemic? We were afraid we were going to, but did we really? So challenge the fear every time.
Great point. Esther, we always learn so much from you. And today, I think we all have learned how to never overeat again. Wow. And all with one exercise. If we want to follow you, we can do so here on Facebook, Instagram, and her website. Esther, I want to thank you. You have been on our program a couple of times, and all of your insights and information are so transformative and inspiring. And I just want to thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you. And I want to offer your people, all of you who are still on the call, if you feel you need 3 targeted, customized strategies to help you work on an issue, be it overeating, you want to lose weight, you want to balance your hormones, fix a health problem, get on the phone with me. I put my link in the chat box. It's estherblum.com/call, CALL. Get a 30-minute consultation. David, for your listeners, I've opened up 5 spots in my calendar next week. So get in, guys, because once those spots are gone, they're gone. So get them while they're available for you. But thank you for having me.
Thank you for doing that. And thank you so much for being with us. I want to thank our audience for joining us for Feel Good Beauty today. And I especially want to thank the incredible guests that we had, Darla DeMorrow, Thomas Farley, and Esther Blum. Thank you for all of your inspiring insights. And if you would like to check out more Feel Good Beauty episodes, you can do so at YouTube under David Zyla. So please check those out, and we will see you next time. Thanks for joining us.